Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Kriyat Shema, and Siman Samech Bet, and we're standing basically on Seif Dalet, Daf Tzadi Vav Amud Bet of regular Daf Peh, Mishna Berurah. Maran writes in Machmat Cholio Ones Acher Kara Kriyat Shema Belibo Yatza. We mentioned before that Shema has to be verbalized at the very least. The Chatchila, you should hear the words that you say, Hashma le'oznecha et ma she'ata motzeh beficha. But Maran here writes, if you have an onus, if you're forced, you cannot utter the words, you cannot verbalize, you cannot lip the words even, and you said Shema in your heart, says Maran, you're yotzeh. Now this stands in contrary to everything that we have spoken about before, because we mentioned before many times, Hirhur lav kedibur dami. Hirhur, when you run something in your mind, in your heart, lav kedibur dami. It's not like saying it. And to that effect, the Mishna Berurah Chafetz Chaim writes in Od Zayin, Yatza says, Ha Yatza lo legamri kama. It's not saying that you're actually Yotze. It's a very interesting way of usage of the language. Yatza, the Ha Kaimalan, Hirhur lav kedibur dami. We hold, halachically speaking, Hirhur lav kedibur dami. Thinking something is not like saying it. And that's how we paskin. So what does it mean? Ela retzono lomar. It just means that if you can't talk, at the very least, do something, and that is at the very least, think of Shema in your heart if you can't say it. Just the thought of good things, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you the schar. We mentioned many times, Ratzala asod mitzvah. If you really want to do something, when and you were forced not to do it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers as if you do it, as though you did it. And therefore, here's the most you could do. The most you could do is machshava tova. Think about it. And we know machshava tova, HaKadosh Baruch Hu misarfa lema'aseh. When you have a good thought, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you schar for that as well. But be'etzem eno yotzeh. Be'emet, halachically speaking, are you yotzeh with that thought of Shema? Absolutely not. You're not yotzeh. So therefore, if the onus goes away, if let's say you're in a place that's you're not allowed to say Shema, you think it, but then the onus is gone, or you can't talk because whatever it is that you had this operation, you had a surgery, you couldn't talk, and now the effect of the medication went away, and now you could talk. Do you say, well, I said Shema in my mind? No, absolutely not. You're not Yotzeh. So when the onus goes away and there's still time for Shema, you definitely have to say it again. Well, it's not again, really. You have to say it for the first time, even though that you thought about it and you said it in your heart. If the onus goes away and it's still time for Shema, you're obligated to go back and you read it. It is like that. And because of this, he wrote that Mikar Adin, if somebody has an onus and he can't read Shema with his mouth, you're not chayav to read it in your heart, because it's just a good gesture. It's not a chiyuv because you are not fulfilling your obligation of Shema. So what is it, this saying it in your heart, what is it exactly? Is it an obligation? No, absolutely not. It's not an obligation. It's a nice thing to do. Because miyotov al tikrara, you could do something, do it. If that's the least that you could do, so you do it. But is it obligation? No. Because there's only one obligation. The obligation is saying Shema. Can you say Shema? No. Do you have any other obligation? No. Is it a nice thing to say it in your heart? Absolutely it is. Do you get schar for it? Absolutely. Are you obligated? No. If you did it and then the onus went away, are you obligated to say Shema? Absolutely yes, because you did not fulfill your obligation by saying it in your heart. And again, this is a big musar, because you will find, if you look around, you will find people, especially by benching, this happens a lot, that they say Birkat Hamazon in their heart. Look around the table, you see some people, they have the bencher, they're looking at it, the eyes are moving, they're reading it in their heart. The lips are not moving, right? And that is absolutely, I don't want to say nothing because you thinking of good things, but absolutely nothing in regards to fulfilling your obligation of saying benching. They have to go back and say the entire benching again. So it says, says Chacham Obadia, it's a nice thing to do. And he brings actually the Gemara that we just mentioned in Masechet Brachot Avav, Chashav la'asot mitzvah v'ne'enas v'lo asa'ah. If you wanted to do something, you couldn't do it, Hashem considers for you as if you did it, so that machshava is counted for something. And Chacham Obadia also paskins like this. Mishna Berurah that we just mentioned before, the Mishna Berurah says that when the time is still there, you have to go back if the onus goes away, and you have to read it again. Obadia says absolutely you have to read it again. The Kaf HaChaim, he brings a whole list of acharonim that they argue with this psak. They say, well, when the onus goes away, and now you could actually read it, you don't have to go back and read it again. Why? Because when you had the onus, there are those poskim who hold when you are anus, you can't say it, verbalize it, then hirhur, thinking of it, is considered doing the mitzvah. If you don't have an onus, if you're not forced, you could say it's Shema, then you have to say Shema. But if you're in a situation of onus, you can't say Shema. Says the Kaf HaChaim, there are many poskim who hold that in that scenario, thinking of Shema is good enough as though you said it. So therefore, if the onus now goes away, what do we say? Well, when I had to do Shema, I did it the way I could do it. And I'm off the hook because of that. That's a whole list of poskim that Kaf HaChaim is. What's the halacha l'maaseh? Halacha l'maaseh is like the Mishna Berurah and Rav Ovadia, that you have to go back and say it. At the end of the day, the psak halacha is hirhur lav kedibur dami. Thinking of something is not like saying it. Kaf HaChaim in general gives much more weight to those poskim who say hirhur is considered something. So therefore, you find Kaf HaChaim many times says if you can't say bracha, or if you have safek, if you have to say the bracha or not, think of the bracha in your mind. Say Baruch, Baruch, and that counts for something. Chacham Obadia, on the other hand, much less so concerned about those poskim, and he goes with the general rule of thumb that hirhur of kedibur dami. Is it a nice thing to have hirhur of good things? Yes. Does it carry any halachic weight? No. And that basically is what he goes with.
According to those poskim that I'm bringing, you have a few to say hirhur, to think it.
Yeah, it will be much more of a chiyuv. Yeah, it goes together. Correct. In other words, that Chacham Obadia that we mentioned before, that says you're not obligated to say it, that would stand in contrary with this Kaf HaChaim. He actually alludes to it as well. This is in Yabia Omer. Obadia talks about this in Orach Chaim, in Chelek Dalit, Siman Gimel of Yabia Omer. And correct, according to Kaf HaChaim, there will be, of course, much more of a serious issue that if you can't say it, at least think it, because that is a way of doing the mitzvah. Whereas Chacham Obadia will tell you that's nothing, halachically speaking. So it says the Mishna Berurah, ve'af lechatchila, the Rema adds to this Maran that even lechatchila, you should think about it if you are in situation of onus, in a place that's not completely clean, for instance, and you can't clean the place because you're anus. Now the Taz says that from this you could learn that someone that is very thirsty in the middle of the night, you wake up from your sleep, you're thirsty. You want to say a bracha. You can't say do netilat yadayim and say bracha on the thing. So yeharehera bracha belibo ve'yishteh. Says the Taz, you know what you do? You take the cup of water and you say in your mind, right? In your mind, you're not verbalizing anything. You say sha'akol in your mind and you drink because you can't do anything else. Says the Taz, right? Now, don't take that too seriously just yet. וכתב, דהרי אפשר לו לעמוד וליטול ידיו. The Sefer Matei Yehuda disagrees very strongly with this task. He says, no, you can't get up. You're not going to die. Get up, do netilat yadayim, a basic netilat yadayim at least. And you're not considered a sick or anus person. You're just tired, and it's just inconvenient. That's all it is. You're not sick. You're not anus. You're not forced. It's just hard. It's a little inconvenience. Since when inconvenience causes you to do these types of things, says Matei Yehuda. So therefore, he categorically disagrees and rejects the Taz. You don't judge and learn things that are possible from things that are not possible. Anus means it's not possible. Chole is not possible. Here it's possible. It's just a little hard. And even if you don't have enough water to do it and to drink, you only have enough for drinking. Or it's freezing cold outside. You get out of that blanket. You're going to freeze. Says you could just clean your hands with your blanket or with the wall. Anything that cleans off. And then you could say bracha. That will work for cleaning off the hand in order to say bracha. Now, this we discussed already in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch when we spoke about the different reasons why we do netilat yadayim in the morning with bracha. We spoke about all of this, that there is an element of cleanliness, machloket Rosh and Rashba. In particular, there's a really 6-way machloket Rishonim, 6 different opinions, but the main 3 is one of the Kabbalistic ones of Ruach Ra'ah, that the negative force, spiritual force comes on the hand, the person, Ruach Ra'ah, and then the other 2 halachic ones are Rosh and Rashba. Rosh says because when you go to sleep, you mindlessly touch the areas of your body that are dirty, that are usually covered, especially because people went to sleep half naked or naked. You got to touch your body, and that's, their hands are dirty. Rashba says no, because when you wake up in the morning and you want to do avodah, you're like a bria chadasha. Every morning you're like a new creature. Right? Chadashim bekarim rabba emunatecha, he says. And therefore, you make netilat yadayim like a kohen that goes to avodah. That's why you do it. So according to Rashba, anyways, it's in the morning that's when you say the bracha. According to the Rosh, your hands are dirty. So you know how I could clean my hands? I could do it with water. You know how else I could clean my hands? I could rub it against my garments, my blanket. So it says Matei Yehuda. So you can't wash your hands because you don't have enough water or it's too freezing cold. You know what you do? You clean your hands with something that cleans, and you say that's enough to say bracha. You're not saying bracha and netilat yadayim in the morning. You just want to say sha'akol. Aravadia uses this also for somebody that wakes up from thunders in the middle of the night. You wake up, big thunder, and then right away a Jew's mind always is alert with Shulchan Aruch. You say, Shulchan Aruch says, you hear thunder, you say bracha. You see lightning, you say bracha. But my hands are not clean. And I got only 2 seconds to say it. Right? It's the life of a Jew. Baruch Hashem. Right? What do you do? Arvada says, clean your hands and say the bracha. You have time to get up. And even if you have a cup of netilat yadayim, you're going to say, wait 1 second. It's going to be past. You have to say the bracha immediately. So it says, just clean your hands and say, depending on if it's lightning or thunder, and you say your bracha. It's the same thing over here. Mishna Berurah says in the name of Matei Yehuda. This is Rabbi Yehuda Ayash, the Rav of Algeria. So he disagrees with the Taz, and he says, you clean your hands, you say the bracha, and that's about it. You don't drink without bracha. It's asur to be ne'eneh from olam hazeh without bracha, and you thinking of the bracha is not you saying the bracha. So therefore, say the bracha, clean your hands prior, and you'll be good to go. So, again, we spoke about this in Siman Dalit at length. So go back to the shiurim and Siman Dalit, and you'll have all of the details of this over there. So it says, the Mishna Berurah, Chafetz Chaim writes on the Ramah in Seif Katan Tet that says that the place, you have to be just careful that the place is not completely dirty. And if the place is metunaf, if the place is completely dirty, then you can't even do hirhur, right? You can't even think of dvarim shebi kedusha or divrei Torah. Just you should think, says the Chafetz Chaim, you should think a good machshava, a good thought. What's a good thought? That's not divrei Torah. You say, I wish I could say bracha. I want to say bracha, but I can't. And that by itself is something powerful. Desire to serve Hashem by itself is considered something big. So when you can't do anything else, at least do that very minimal thing that you could do. It bothers you. And the fact that it bothers you and you want to do, Hashem sees the heart. Hashem considers that as a schut for a person, because he knows, he understands that you are anus, you're in a situation of onus. The hashotin bebeta merchas shelo kadinosim. But Chafetz Chaim says, let me tell you something. When you go to the bathhouse and you start drinking without bra, what are you doing drinking in the bathhouse? Right? That's not the right thing to do. Then you can't even do yirhur. So what are you drinking with? You're drinking water, you're not anus. Wait until you come out. If you're passing out, that's a different story. But if you're just thirsty, so wait until you come out. Elamai, you want to tell me that you're thinking of the bracha? First of all, that's machloket Taz and Ben Yehuda. Secondly, secondly, you can't even do hirhur in Bet Mirchas because that's completely considered a dirty place. You can't even think of the bracha in your mind. So therefore, you should wait until you come out and then say the bracha. Now, one little interesting thing. What is considered a place that is completely dirty? The Kaf HaChaim says, when you have a mikveh, for instance, right, and you have a place that people is a locker room type of a pool or a mikveh, the half people are naked, half people are dressed, right? So that is considered a place that you can't talk divrei Torah, but you could think of divrei Torah. But inside the mikveh, which used to be hot, in the public bath was hot and full of ze'ah and steam and so on, and everybody is naked over there, right? That is considered something that's completely considered an unclean place. So therefore, you can't even be meharher, you can't even think of divrei Torah in that place. Bezrat Hashem will continue this in the days to come.